Now, after being told by the Sports Minister to shape up or shape out, it will be interesting to see what emerges from Sascoc's AGM. That meeting will be held today at Sascoc House. Among the discussions will be the Sascoc Inquiry report that was released by Sports Minister Tokozile Xasa yesterday. The report calls for the restructuring of Sascoc's board and management. But will that call be heeded? Joining us now is Hlonim Tekulu, who's been part and parcel of this happening, the month-long wait and everything. Let's start with what we are expecting from today's AGM.
Well, so the three main topics that are on the agenda at the AGM is obviously this report that was released yesterday, finally, after 9 months, and then also talking through financial challenges, which is an ongoing Sascoc issue, as well as 2019 as an athletics year. So there are the World Championships that are taking place next year. So those will be part of the discussions that will be happening. But of course, the big one for all people generally will be what happens given that the report was released yesterday.
I know that they probably would have a lot of points of discussion on the AGM meeting today. How dominant will this report be?
It definitely has to be, because it's been the main thing for Sascoc this year. I mean, there's been other things that have happened. There were the Youth Olympics that happened this year, you know, and the Commonwealth Games as well. So obviously those will feature in, but the Sascoc report is the main thing because it has so many implications for what Sascoc is going to do moving forward. So last night they actually held a board meeting following the release of the report, and then today will be the AGM. So this morning we'll be hearing from Sascoc, from the president actually, who's still the president, what's going to happen moving forward, whether that means, according to the report, they need to restructure the board, which effectively means that the president goes and a number of board members as well, or if they continue as things are and wait for the minister to take action on her own. We'll see.
I'm very curious as to this report has obviously highlighted one or two or plenty wrongdoings and misgivings and that kind of thing. Are we expecting a flurry of resignations as far as board members are concerned, particularly with the report suggesting that restructuring is a massive need within this organization?
Well, so the report following the report, so the minister received the report, I think, end of July, beginning of August, and then she sent it out to Sascoc for them to have a look at it and to make their own suggestions. And one of the things that the report said or spoke about, and the minister's point of view on this was that and she agreed on this, that the president needs to be re-elected essentially, and it needs to be a different process to what Sascoc had been doing before. Now, Sascoc took issue with that initially, but they did now agree that the process will have to happen. So given what that report says about the re-election of the president, for one, in theory, then there should be a new process for that. There should be a new process for example, an accountant that should be elected, or someone who works within the finance committee. And so I think that will have implications for the finance committee as well. In terms of getting a lawyer in, that will be someone that they bring in now. So I expect that the board itself, and there's word that some board members have already resigned anyway, or at least a board member that we know of has resigned already anyway. So it'll be interesting to see then if they can confirm that, and also other board members who are either unhappy with what has happened, with where things are at the moment, or also just given what the report has said about the restructuring, if that will actually happen.
Now, in certain instances, when people high up resign, it's sometimes seen as it being the honourable thing to do. What would individual board members' resignations say about what's been going on at Sascoc?
So I think there's been so much that's gone on, and there's so much, it's so murky at the moment that it's a bit difficult to see it as an honourable thing to do, when some people have seen this organization through so much over the past 2 years and even longer, given that the terms have been they've been there for two terms, you know. So I suppose resigning is the honourable thing to do, but I mean, there's been so much mess that if they resign and also take ownership of their part in what has happened at Sascoc, I think that's one thing. But if they sort of resign and they put their hands up and they just say, well, I'm leaving because it's so messy, and they don't own up as well, then I think that also casts them in a different light as well.
Now, let's look at the reform that's been suggested. It obviously will take a while for the organisation to do so, and it will be an ongoing project. Yeah. Where does that leave the business of sports development for our country?
Well, I think a lot of people expected that the minister would just dissolve the Sascoc board as one of the outcomes of this report. So I know that people are disappointed that things at the moment are still continuing as they are. So we will. So that's the one thing. But I think that in terms of one of the things they will talk about is 2019 and 2019 as an athletics year. So now it will depend if this board continues with that or if it will be a new board. And also if there is a new board or a restructured board, how they get things going, you know, are they going to be starting from scratch? Is there going to be like a handover process? Is, you know, how that all affects things? And also, I mean, there's a lot of talk about financial issues. They're going to talk about financial issues as well. It'll be interesting to see how they approach that, given all the amount of money that they've spent on legal issues, the perennial struggle that Sascoc has had with financial issues as well. So you hope that things will start becoming better. You also hope that the athletes will start believing in Sascoc. I think that's another big thing, that we talk about Sascoc, but we never talk about the athletes actually. So we hope that as one of the things that come out of this, that athletes will start believing in Sascoc, because we know from the inquiry that athletes have lost faith in Sascoc.
Well, with that sigh and that mention of the athletes, I think there's so much more that needs to be discussed. Thank you to you, Hloni, and to Kulu, talking about what to be expected from the Sascoc AGM. So many things. I envy you for being the one that will be going there to hear what's going to happen. That's your sports for now. Kathy, Hlantla, back to you guys.